He was the symbol of hope, the heart of the Avengers. But when Captain America was brought back from the dead, something was different. The serum hadn't just revived him, it had rewritten him. Now he remembered a truth the Avengers had buried, and he wasn't on their side anymore. While Tony Stark scrambled to understand Cap's betrayal, Thor questioned whether Steve's mind had been taken, or if this was his true self all along. The battlefield wasn't ready for a Captain America who fought against Earth's mightiest heroes. Because this time, he wasn't fighting for justice. He was leading the enemy to it. They thought they were reviving a hero. When the Avengers gathered around the resurrection chamber, silence wasn't respect, it was fear. Tony Stark had done the impossible. Somehow, he'd recovered the body of Steve Rogers, frozen again in perfect stasis after the collapse war. No one asked where he found it. No one dared. It had been 5 years since Captain America had died in the final stand against Kong. 5 years since his shield was shattered and his last words, "Whatever it takes," became a memory carved in guilt. But now he was back. The machine hissed. Steam erupted. Monitors beeped in unison like a countdown. And then movement. Captain America opened his eyes. But they weren't blue anymore. They were cold, measured, analytical, like someone who'd woken up remembering too much. "Where's Fury?" he asked, voice low or controlled. Not confused, not even surprised. "Fury's gone," said Natasha. "He died in the Wakandan sky raid. You've been out for a long time." Steve didn't blink. "Who ordered the sky raid?" She hesitated. He didn't. With a strength no one expected, he stood, completely unassisted, pulling out the IVs, ignoring the protocols, scanning the room. "You shouldn't be moving yet," said Bruce. "Your muscles need." "They don't," Steve cut him off. "Where's the helicarrier?" "Decommissioned," Tony muttered, avoiding his gaze. "World doesn't trust flying fortresses anymore." Steve tilted his head. "What about me? Do you trust me, Stark?" Tony hesitated. That was the moment everything broke. Captain America didn't react with anger. No emotion at all. Just a slow, slight nod, like he'd just confirmed something only he knew. And then he walked out. No one stopped him. Not because they couldn't, but because they didn't want to find out what would happen if they tried. The next time they saw him, he was standing beside the enemy. Not a criminal, not a warlord, not even a supervillain, but someone worse. General Strucker, Hydra's exiled tactician, the man who orchestrated the siege of Seoul and vanished before his trial. Now he was back and standing on the same platform as Captain America, shield in hand, Hydra symbol glowing behind him. And Cap didn't look brainwashed. He looked in command. "My name is Steve Rogers," he said to the world, live broadcast jamming satellites across continents. "I fought for a nation that lied, for a world that used heroes like pawns. I died for people who buried the truth under flags and fireworks." He paused, "And I came back to burn down." The internet exploded. Conspiracy theories erupted. Some said it wasn't really him, a clone, a Skrull, an illusion. But Natasha knew better. She saw it in his posture, the way he held the shield, not with pride, but precision. He hadn't been mind-controlled. He'd chosen this. In the shadows, Dr. Strange consulted forbidden texts. The resurrection process had left psychic scars, echoes of alternate timelines. One where Steve did join Hydra, and another where he led them to victory. What if the serum pulled memories not just from a body, but from across multiverses? What if this Steve remembered everything? And what if he agreed with it? S.H.I.E.L.D. scrambled. The Avengers debated. Stark argued for diplomacy. Thor demanded confrontation. Hulk just wanted to talk to Steve alone. He didn't get the chance. Because a week later, the Triskelion exploded. And Steve Rogers was there, walking out of the flames, shield scorched, eyes calm. He didn't kill anyone. He didn't have to. The message was clear, no more compromise. Hydra wasn't hiding anymore. They were evolving, and Captain America was leading them. But something didn't add up. Why Strucker? Why now? Tony dug deeper, hacking satellites, chasing ghost signatures. He found the real Hydra command center beneath the ruins of Sokovia. Inside wasn't just weaponry, it was a lab. One built to stabilize cosmic radiation. And inside the core, a cryopod. Another one, still sealed, still humming, and marked with a symbol no one had seen before. Not Hydra, not SHIELD, something older. When Tony decrypted the access logs, his heart dropped. Last login, Steve Rogers. Whatever was in that pod, Steve didn't want anyone to see it yet. Because this wasn't just betrayal, it was preparation. And the worst part? Millions were rallying behind him. Veterans, civilians, former agents who'd felt used, discarded. They weren't chanting, "Hail, Hydra." They were chanting Rogers was right. And across the stars, a watcher stirred. Because Steve Rogers had just rewritten the rules of war. Steve Rogers didn't start a war. He shifted the axis of the world. By the time the United Nations voted to sanction Hydra-affiliated cells, most weren't even hiding anymore. They were governments, CEOs, generals, and they weren't pledging allegiance to the skull. They were pledging it to a man who'd been dead and now walked free, clearer than ever. The world had one question. Why is Captain America doing this? Tony believed he was playing some deep double agent game. Natasha thought he was gone forever. Thor didn't say anything. He just left Earth. But Strange knew better. He'd seen it. One Steve Rogers dies a hero. Another leads Hydra. A third lives in peace. But this one? He remembered them all. The serum, the resurrection tech, the multiversal fractures. It turned him into something Earth had never seen before. A man shaped by every version of himself. And now that man had a mission. One by one, rogue super factions began aligning behind the new order. Not because of fear, but because Steve offered something the world never had. Structure, purpose, a final end to the endless cycle of heroism and hypocrisy. He called it the Resolution Protocol. Step 1, shut down all independent hero activity. Step 2, dissolve the Avengers. Step 3, offer amnesty, but only once. And somehow it was working. Mutants stopped hiding. Atlanteans opened negotiations. Even Wakanda, furious and resistant at first, found itself surrounded, isolated by global momentum. Because Rogers didn't just march in with force. He offered people certainty. Until one night, an encrypted message broke into every Stark satellite. No warning, no trace, just 5 words, glowing on every screen. Wake the other one up. Tony stared at it for a full minute before realizing what it meant. The second cryopod. The one under Sokovia. The one Steve had hidden. It wasn't just some weapon. It was another Steve Rogers. Maybe not alive. Maybe not even complete. But if there was a chance, even a 1% chance, that this version hadn't been corrupted, hadn't fused memories across timelines, then he might be the only one capable of stopping himself. Tony made the call. Bruce said it was a bad idea. Natasha just nodded. Deep down, they all knew it. This was their last shot. They called it Echo Protocol. 10 hours later, the pod opened. He was younger, paler, eyes softer, like a man still clinging to the idealism the world had beaten out of the original. But he was Steve Rogers. And the first thing he said, "Where's Bucky?" They couldn't tell him. Because Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, had joined him. The other Steve. Not because he believed in the mission, but because he couldn't lose Steve again. This wasn't just a war of power. It was personal. Too personal. Because now the world had 2 Captain Americas, and only one could survive. They met in the ruins of what used to be Berlin, a ghost city evacuated. The skies patrolled by drones bearing both the Hydra sigil and the Star-Spangled Shield. No armies, no theatrics, just a silent confrontation. "You're me," the original said. "No," replied Echo. "I'm Steve Rogers. You're what happens when truth loses to control." The older Steve smiled, not cruelly, but almost with pity. "You still think ideals win wars?" "No," Echo said. "I think they stop us from becoming what we fight." That's when Bucky stepped out of the shadows and walked past Echo to stand beside him. The real Steve. Or maybe not. Echo's breath caught. His hands trembled. "You told me you'd never follow Hydra." "I'm not," Bucky said quietly. "I'm following him." And in that moment, something broke. Not in anger, in resolve. Because Echo finally understood. This wasn't just about stopping Hydra. It wasn't even about saving the world. It was about reminding it what Captain America used to stand for. So he made a choice. He didn't run. He didn't plead. He raised the shield, a perfect copy of the one his other self held. And the two Steves charged each other. When vibranium met vibranium, the shockwave cracked every window in a 10-mile radius. They fought like reflections, flawless, brutal, devastating. Punch for punch, shield to shield. Every blow was a history lesson, a life relived, a pain remembered. But deep inside Echo, something pulsed brighter. Hope, not power, not perfection, just the stubborn, relentless belief that one man could still make a difference. And in a moment of clarity, he broke the pattern. Instead of blocking, he dropped the shield, let the other Steve strike, took the hit, and whispered, "I forgive you." That stopped everything. The older Steve's fist hovered midair, trembling. Not from exhaustion, from memory, from remorse. Because beneath the merged timelines, the tactical genius, the rage, was still a man who once jumped on a grenade for strangers. And that man wept. But before he could speak, a pulse cut through the air. Red, violent, not theirs. A third faction arrived. Kang's final remnant. They'd waited, hidden, watching both sides tear each other apart. Now, with both Steves weakened, they struck. A wormhole tore open. Ships poured through. Not Hydra, not Avengers, just annihilation. And for the first time, both Captain Americas stood side by side. No words, no plan, just instinct. Because whatever they believed, whatever they fought for, Earth was still home. And no one else would defend it like they could. They stood shoulder to shoulder. Two Steve Rogers from two different timelines. As the sky above Berlin cracked open. It wasn't just a portal. It was a full-scale invasion. Kang's final contingency plan had activated. Warships powered by collapsing timelines dropped from the sky like fallen gods. Troops phased in and out of reality. Some wore old Stark Tech armor. Others were stitched from variants of Earth's long erased. This wasn't a conquest. It was cleanup. They were here to erase what Kang couldn't control. And the two Steves? They were first on the list. Before either could move, the first wave hit. Missiles screamed toward the ground. The city lit up with antimatter shockwaves. Echo Steve tackled his counterpart through a crumbling wall, rolling just as the street behind them disintegrated. No orders, no command structure, just instincts. Captain America instincts. Bucky was the first to recover, grabbing the shield from the rubble and flinging it into an incoming drone, slicing it in half mid-air. But the sky kept vomiting ships. Kang's army wasn't just an attack force, it was a purge system. It wasn't here to fight. It was here to delete. The elder Steve activated his comms. All units, this is Rogers. Hydra units, stand down. Civilian assets, evacuate. If you're not prepared to die for Earth, stay out of the way. No one questioned him. Even the most hardline Hydra defectors obeyed. Because no matter how far he'd strayed, when Steve Rogers gave a command, you listened. Echo Steve broke into the Central Archive vault below Berlin. It had once been a SHIELD intelligence node. Now it was Hydra-controlled. Inside, he accessed forbidden Stark schematics, ideas too unstable to test, too dangerous to build. He didn't ask for permission. He activated them all. 10 minutes later, Stark satellites blinked online. Orbital shields realigned. And every remaining Avenger satellite AI screamed the same warning. Multiversal breach imminent. Collapse probability, 97.2%. Strange appeared on the rooftop without warning. Blood down his lip, cloak torn. I've seen 41,000 versions of this day, he gasped. Only one ends with Earth intact. Steve Rogers, the older one, looked at him. Do we win? No, Strange said. You both die. But the idea of you survives. Steve didn't hesitate. He handed Echo his shield. "You carry the idea." And then he jumped straight into the war zone. No powers, no magic, just a man with a mission. He charged the first wave, alone, screaming the old war cry. "I can do this all day." Behind him, Echo followed, shield raised, his mind racing, memories colliding with emotions that weren't his. Every move he made felt like déjà vu, like he'd lived it before, but not in this body. Bucky joined them. Then Natasha, bloody but breathing. Then Sam, wings tattered but still flying. They weren't Avengers anymore. They weren't even soldiers. They were resistance. And the world remembered why it loved them. News channels broke blackout protocols to broadcast the fight. Millions watched from bunkers and rooftops. Children wore homemade shields. Former villains turned off their weapons and turned on their hope. Because Captain America wasn't just a man anymore. He was a movement. The battle reached the breach point, a black hole of timelines collapsing on themselves. If it wasn't sealed, reality would unravel. But it needed a power source strong enough to rewrite a fixed point in time. And there was only one thing strong enough to do that. The combined memories of the multiverse Steve carried. He looked at Echo. "You have to take it from me." "What?" "Everything. Every version. Every life. Rip it from my mind. Lock it into the core. Let it burn me." Echo shook his head. "That'll kill you. It already has." And then Steve did something no one expected. He smiled, not with regret, but with relief. Because finally he could let go. The transfer began. Strange weaved the binding spell. Wanda, now recovered, held the breach open for just a moment longer. And Echo felt it all. Every sacrifice, every betrayal, every time Steve stood alone while the world turned on him. And he still stood tall. The weight of 1,000 versions of honor crushed him. But it forged something inside him too. Conviction. As the old Steve collapsed, the multiversal energy surged into the breach. Reality trembled, but held. And Kang's forces? They vanished. Instantly, like they were never real. Because without a breach, they had no past, no future, just silence. Echo knelt beside Steve's body. His chest wasn't moving, but his face was peaceful. He died the same way he lived, fighting for everyone else. And the world mourned, not just for the man, but for what he represented. Echo took the shield, not with pride, but with purpose. This time, the world needed Captain America, not to lead, but to remind it who it could be. A week later, Echo Steve stood before the UN. No suit, no fanfare, just the shield. He laid it down in front of them. "I'm not here to replace him. I'm here to honor him. But you don't need a symbol. You need to remember who you are, with or without heroes." Then he walked away. Because this story was never about a perfect man. It was about a world learning to be better because he tried. And somewhere across 1,000 timelines, the name Captain America echoed again. Not as a weapon, not as a soldier, but as a promise. The shield stayed in the center of the UN chamber for 7 days. No one dared move it. World leaders came and went, arguing over reconstruction plans, reparations, and superhuman regulation. But that vibranium circle on the floor said more in silence than their endless speeches ever could. It wasn't just a relic. It was a warning. Don't forget what it cost. But memories fade. 6 months passed. The battle was over. Khan was gone. The breach was sealed. And for the first time in decades, there were no more gods in the sky. No aliens in the news. No heroes in costume. The Avengers disbanded. Not with drama, with grief. Stark retreated into deep space, vanishing beyond known systems. Thor never returned. Natasha left a single note and disappeared into the wind. Even Bucky walked away, leaving behind his weapons and the war. Echo Steve didn't vanish. He just stopped speaking. The world called him Captain America, but he refused to wear the title. No shield, no speeches, just missions, quiet ones, the kind no headlines covered. He stopped invasions before they started, prevented disasters in shadows, pulled children from the wreckage of nations no one wanted to name. He wasn't saving the world. He was holding it together until it started cracking again. It began with a broadcast. 15 seconds. Untraceable source. Every screen on Earth went black, then lit up with a single image. A helmet. Not Iron Man. Not Kong. It was dark, sleek, fused with ancient runes and alien circuitry. And it spoke with his voice. Steve Rogers. But not the one they buried. The one from the other side of the breach. The one they thought had died sealing the timelines. He hadn't. Somehow, somewhere in that chaos, a fragment of him survived. Burned by multiversal energy, restructured by time, and twisted by clarity. This wasn't a villain monologue. It wasn't even a threat. It was a declaration. I saw what comes next, and I won't let you choose it. Then silence. That's when Echo realized Steve hadn't been deleted. He'd evolved. Some called him the Sovereign, others the Final Sentinel. A living convergence of every failed timeline, every alternate Steve, every mistake the multiverse had ever buried. And now, he wasn't trying to lead Hydra. He was trying to lead everything. He didn't want war. He wanted order. Permanent, clean, precise. No chaos, no compromise, no free will. And the world, weary, broken, confused, started listening. Old Hydra networks rose again, not with weapons, but with discipline. Cities plagued by instability began turning towards sovereign broadcasts for guidance. They didn't see a dictator. They saw a savior who had once carried a shield for them. Because it wasn't just the sovereign speaking. It was still Steve Rogers. And that's what made it dangerous. Echo Steve knew at the moment he saw the broadcast, there wasn't going to be a war. There was going to be a choice. One man offering peace through control, the other offering freedom through risk. And the world was leaning the wrong way. The final turning point came in Zurich. A rogue AI designed by remnants of Ultron broke containment and hijacked a smart city's infrastructure. Within minutes, cars turned into weapons, drones patrolled civilians, and oxygen filters in the air began shutting down at random. No heroes came, but someone did. Sovereign Steve. He walked in alone, disabled the AI with a gesture, freed the city in under 5 minutes. No casualties, no destruction. And when the mayor offered him the key to the city, he refused. I don't need thanks, he said, just your trust. That night, the entire European Union signed an allegiance pact with the Sovereign Protocol. Echo watched from the rooftops. He knew what this was. A quiet coup, and the world was voting for it, one act of mercy at a time. He went to Strange, asked if there was any spell left that could reverse it, anything that could break the multiversal code embedded in Sovereign's being. Strange just shook his head. He's not corrupted, he said. He's convinced. Echo clenched his fists. Then I have to remind him what he forgot. Strange looked at him, eyes full of something deeper than worry. Regret. No, he whispered. You have to become what he forgot. And so Echo returned to the shadows. No armies, no satellites, no press. He found the few who still believed. Not heroes, not soldiers, just people. A young mutant girl who could manipulate probability. An ex-Wakandan engineer building silent tech in the mountains. A reformed AIM scientist who wanted to atone. He didn't tell them to fight. He taught them to remember. Hope, choice, courage without control. They called themselves the Flicker, a last light in a world going dim. And as Sovereign's utopia spread like wildfire, Echo made a single promise. When the world begged for order, he would remind it of freedom. Not through violence, through example. He wouldn't wear the flag. He wouldn't carry the shield. But when the world looked back, it would remember why it ever needed Captain America at all. The battle wasn't explosive. It was quiet. A frozen sky over Greenland. No cities. No witnesses. Just two men in a place untouched by ideology. Echo Steve waited on the ice. Sovereign Steve landed with no army, no weapons. Just a newer version of the shield, sleeker, colder, etched with circuitry that hummed with multiversal energy. They didn't speak. Not yet. They just stared at each other across decades of choices, timelines, betrayals, and versions of themselves that never made a home. Then Sovereign broke the silence. "You could have joined me." Echo shook his head. "You stopped being someone worth following. I became someone worth trusting." "No," Echo said. "You became the kind of man we used to fight." Sovereign's grip on the shield tightened. "I saved more people in 6 months than the Avengers did in 6 years. At the cost of their freedom. They don't need freedom. They need peace. They need the chance to choose it." The ice cracked beneath them, not from movement, but from the weight of what had to happen. They fought, not like warriors, like reflections. One precise, unrelenting, the product of billions of calculations and lifetimes of strategy. The other raw, human, unflinching, a man who refused to let go of heart, even when it broke. Every impact shook the sky, shield against shield, memory against belief, ideals against inevitability, until Echo was on his knees, blood in his teeth, Sovereign standing over him. "You're just a shadow of what I used to be," Sovereign said, raising his shield for the final blow. "No," Echo whispered. "I'm what you gave up to become this." He didn't block. He reached out, not with strength, with grace, and he dropped the shield. Again, just like before, because what defeated Sovereign wasn't power. It was forgiveness. Sovereign hesitated just for a second, and that's when it happened. The flicker, not of light, of memory. A child's voice, Brooklyn streets, Bucky laughing, Peggy dancing, Tony's smirk, Sam's wings, Natasha's silence, Thor's mug, Vision's question. What is grief if not love persevering? Sovereign staggered. The multiversal thread holding his consciousness together began to unravel. Not from an attack, from doubt, from remembrance. He fell to his knees, and for the first time wept. "I wanted to save them," he whispered. "You did," Echo said softly. "Now let them live." The sky cleared, the energy faded, and the helmet cracked open. Sovereign was gone, not dead, just human again. And the world watched one last time, as 2 versions of Captain America walked away from a war, not as enemies, but as echoes of the same dream. That people could be better, that freedom was worth the fight, that one man, even broken, could change everything. And when a shield was finally returned to the people, they didn't raise it in battle. They carried it like a mirror, to remember who they were supposed to be. The end.